Well, good day, good people, and welcome to Contemplative Inner Being. I am Robert Farrell, and whether you are joining for the live session or watching the recording, thank you so much for being here. I am monitoring a tech issue on my side. Just a couple of minutes before I joined, there was a small crash, so I'm keeping my eye on that. If you will, let me know in the chat section that you can hear me okay. And if for some reason I do disappear, will work to get back as soon as possible. Take a gentle, deep breath, friends. Let that bring you into presence right here. We are going to spend about 40 minutes together. So let's dedicate and devote our time to being present to that time. Sitting upright but not stiff. Being aware. Being receptive. Being mindful. This moment is the only moment. So attend to it fully. Let go of all those mental activities. Be here with your heart. Let that be the place that you listen from. It's much easier to listen from there once you practice some. That way you don't have to spend time memorizing and analyzing and capitulating and Let us just rest together for a few moments before we begin our first reflection on divine love in uncertain times. Friends, a couple of reminders before I begin. The chat section is open, and you can put in anything you'd like during our reflections. You do not have to wait till I stop talking. We're just keeping an open dialogue, and I'll continue. And if you share, then I will try to address that when the time is right. Also remember that each day at approximately 11:15 Central, I share a post on the Mighty Network that continues this theme of divine love in uncertain times so that you can encounter it there and interact with it and interact with one another, I hope. And also, I would like to thank you for being here. This is a different time than usual. I was asked to attend another event at 6 today, so thank you for being here. Glad you all could make it. So tonight, divine love in uncertain times. Friends, the sea is never still, and neither is the human heart. Beneath its surface, currents move with ancient rhythm, sometimes calm, sometimes fierce, but always alive with unseen depth. You may remember the story of Jesus calming the storm that speaks not only to wind and wave, but to the hidden movements within the soul. Peace, be still. And these words carry a power that does not suppress motion, but reveals a deeper order moving through all change. There is a moment when the storm's roar begins to soften, when even the fear itself listens. And in that stillness, something beyond control awakens, a presence that doesn't share our panic. The wind may continue to move, the waves may still rise and fall, yet within the heart a new center forms, steady and luminous. To trust in this peace is to recognize that calm is not the absence of turbulence, but the awareness that flows beneath it. Each of our lives sails across its own sea of becoming, carrying memories and desires and small vessels of daily care. Yet uncertainty gathers, and when it does, it can feel as though the horizon has vanished. But God's presence remains within the boat itself, not as an external rescuer, but as the quiet command within being itself. Friends, in the midst of the world's unrest, this peace invites no flight from reality, only a deeper inhabiting of it. The practice of stillness becomes an act of faith, allowing the heart to listen before it reacts, to breathe before it speaks, to dwell before it decides. And peace is not imposed on the world, it is revealed through trust. And as our mind softens its grip, the sacred begins to show itself in every ordinary moment. The weight of sunlight across the floor, the slow turning of breath, the unguarded glance of another being. And from this kind of awareness arises the courage to act with gentleness and the wisdom to wait with patience. Yes, the sea remains vast, and the winds are unpredictable, yet the soul learns to move with the current of divine composure. Yes, trust grows where stillness is allowed, and from that stillness, peace becomes the truest form of strength. And that's why they call it spiritual practice. Now, friends, confidence in love arises through a quiet seeing that all things are held in the same breath of divine affection. You may not have thought about it, but once you do, it's hard not to see it that way. Every moment, every inhalation, every pulse of being whispers that love is already here, maintaining existence with unwavering constancy. And to awaken to this is not to reach for something distant, but to relax into what has never been absent. Faith becomes not belief in a remote idea, but confidence in the presence that animates all life. Confidence in the presence that animates all life. The awareness that God is choosing us now and now and now opens the heart to a rhythm of continual creation. That's why we turn to the breath so often, because each breath carries the silent affirmation of belonging. Each instant extends the same invitation to live as participants in an unfolding communion that requires no proof, only recognition. And And when perception softens, the veil of separation thins. The ordinary gleam of sunlight across the floor, the fragile cry of a bird at dawn, the warmth of a shared glance, all of those become the language of love revealing itself in form. And this awareness asks for unlearning, the gentle loosening of illusions that cast shadows over what is already luminous. The sleepwalk of distraction fades as vision clears, and the body, heart, and mind awaken into harmony. Perhaps you are sensing now that contemplative practice is a way of learning how to see as God does. And friends, the world is not an obstacle to the sacred. It is the very expression. To see reality as it is to love as it moves, gives, and transforms. To see reality as it is to see love as it moves, gives, and transforms. The cross of human sorrow becomes not a negation of goodness, but a door through which love continues to pour itself into new shapes of compassion. Divine love in uncertain times. Now, as our consciousness ripens in this awareness, the impulse to control or divide softens into reverence. And action flows from stillness, generosity from awareness, and forgiveness from understanding that all are being sustained by the same breath of grace. Take a breath. The same breath of grace. The sacred pulse continues, unbroken, within and around all that lives, inviting every soul to rest in its rhythm and to move with its endless unfolding. Yes, friends, confidence in love is the awakening to the divine presence already sustaining every breath, revealing that to live consciously is to live as love itself. And there is a tenderness that moves quietly through all things, a current of infinite love that does not measure, divide, or demand perfection. It flows as the essence of divine generosity, holding the wholeness of creation without calculation. Within this flow, imperfection is not an obstacle. It is the place where love finds room to breathe. To awaken within this love is to rest in a truth beyond arithmetic. The truth that nothing needs to be earned, subtracted, or improved to be worthy of belonging. Nothing. And each moment offers a gentle invitation to say yes. Yes to what is before us. Yes to the unfolding life that carries both light and shadow, joy and ache. And this yes is not the agreement of passivity. It is the posture of presence, an opening through which grace may pass freely. When the heart learns to remain open, even to its own frailty, compassion begins to expand like morning light across still water. In that widening, divine love becomes less a concept and more as a lived rhythm pulsing quietly beneath every breath. Friends, the sacred does not withhold itself from what is unfinished. Even what is unfinished in you, the sacred does not withhold itself. Every imperfection becomes a meeting ground where mercy reveals its strength. To notice this is to perceive how forgiveness arises not as an effort, but as a natural movement of the heart once freed from judgment. The human pattern of exclusion softens when the gaze becomes contemplative, when perception no longer divides, but beholds. Behold, my friends, behold. In such seeing, in such beholding, even the broken becomes radiant, reflecting the wholeness from which all things come. And so within the flow of divine love, nothing stands outside the embrace. Every story, every wound, every hesitation is gathered into the larger harmony of God's unfolding yes. So, when the mind ceases its striving for purity and the heart allows itself to be seen as it is, a quiet joy awakens. The joy is not fragile. It is the strength of inclusion, the peace of knowing that love does not eliminate the imperfect, but sanctifies it. Divine love includes imperfection. That is what makes it divine. And our openness to divine love allows imperfection to become the very space where grace is known and shared. So take a breath, friends. Let's enter into that space, the very space where grace is known and shared, by entering into the silence together for just a few minutes. Take a breath again. Let it keep you in your heart space where divine love is, where divine love meets you. Because love moves through the human heart as a quiet revolution. It is not driven by sentiment or reward, nor does it measure worth by agreement or belief. It flows from the deep source where all life arises, an endless current seeking expression through hands, voices, and gestures of mercy. When Dr. King spoke of Jesus' forgiveness from the cross, he revealed the power of love that endures beyond injury, the radiant strength that meets cruelty with compassion and dissolves hatred through unwavering gentleness. This love is not weakness. It is the luminous clarity that sees beyond division. It perceives that every being, however wounded or confused, shares the same breath of the eternal. To live with such perception is to see the world as an unfolding of grace, even in its trembling and pain. Only goodness can drive out evil, and only love can conquer hate. These words open a way of life that expands consciousness beyond self-protection, self-interest, and it awakens a trust that love itself holds the world together. Revolutionary love, which you will be hearing much more about in the coming year, asks for spaciousness of heart. It invites the letting go of boundary and bias so that divine generosity may move freely through awareness. It is love with God, not toward God. It's an unbroken circulation of giving and receiving. In this flow, forgiveness arises naturally, not as a duty, but as recognition that separation has no final reality. Every act of tenderness becomes an echo of that divine utterance. Forgive them. Spoken not only to others, but to all that remain unhealed within the human family. Contemplation deepens this way of seeing. In stillness, the mind's grasp loosens, and the heart learns to perceive without judgment. And this is where non-dual awareness dawns, a seeing that holds all things in compassion. From such seeing, action becomes effortless, flowing like water over a stone. Friends, to love as God loves is to live as presence itself, open, luminous, without discrimination or fear. So love, born from silence, becomes the movement of peace through the world. It breathes through every gesture, renewing creation moment by moment, until all life is recognized as one radiant act of forgiveness unfolding in time. And revolutionary love arises from contemplative stillness, revealing that divine compassion moves through every heart that's willing to see all beings as one. That's interbeing, by the way. And love moves just like breath moves, quietly, continuously, through every living thing. It is not contained by belief or boundary. It expands through the simple act of giving. Hear those words. God gave. That rhythm of offering, that steady pulse of generosity, becomes the heartbeat of creation itself. Love reveals its depth not through sentiment, but through commitment, a willingness to act for the good of another, to see well-being as a shared horizon. That's what love is. Love is not honeymoons and valentines, which we like to commercialize. Love is the giving for the goodness of the other without expecting anything in return, because the well-being of the whole is more important than anything. So every act of care, every tender glance towards suffering becomes an expression of divine participation in the life of the world. And we need this kind of divine love in these uncertain times. And when we talk about love, we're talking about agape love, not affection limited by preference, but a spacious concern that embraces all that is. It is love that beholds the cosmos in its fullness, the vastness of stars, the fragile bloom of a child's hope, the unseen labor of those who mend what has been broken. This love holds nothing apart. It is the soil from which compassion grows and the fire that strengthens courage. May you feel that fire. And through this kind of love, which is really the only kind of love, the ordinary becomes radiant. A firefighter entering flame, a protester standing unarmed before injustice, a teacher awakening possibility in the eyes of a child. Each gesture reveals love made visible through action. And friends, this love seeks the good and works for the good, not through demand, but through the quiet persistence of care. It creates a moral gravity that draws human hearts toward wholeness. And when the ship feels like it's headed out to sea, it is our job to love more. Love more. It does make a difference. Now, friends, contemplation receives this same current of love in stillness. When awareness rests without grasping, the mind opens to the immensity that gives itself freely. So from that still center, action arises without strain. It's guided by the clarity of compassion. Love is both rest and movement, both silence and song. And to dwell in its flow is to discover a unity that holds the world together, a unity that heals without erasing, that gives without seeking return. And as the practice deepens, love becomes not something done, but something lived, a continuous offering of presence, a radiant participation in the divine generosity that sustains all things. Yes, when love is allowed to flow as both stillness and action, life itself becomes the expression of divine generosity. Now, prayer unfolds as a living movement of trust, a steady leaning into grace that carries the whole of creation toward wholeness. Each breath that opens in awareness joins this current. Take a breath. Join the current. Open in awareness. That's what reveals that divine love is not a distant idea, but a presence continually creating, sustaining, and inviting. The act of prayer becomes a gesture of belonging, a surrender into what is already flowing through every particle of existence. To pray is to awaken within a love that knows no separation. And the one who prays discovers that what once seemed a private interior chamber is in truth a vast dwelling shared by all beings. The walls of the inner house dissolve, and there arises the recognition that there is only one house, spacious and luminous, where spirit and matter dwell as one reality. This is the politics of prayer, the quiet revolution of belonging to a love larger than allegiance. And from such stillness, action is born. Not the driven activity of striving, but the natural movement of life itself expressing care. Each gesture, word, and silence becomes a continuation of divine creativity. To pray deeply in this way is to live as one who no longer divides sacred from ordinary, who sees holiness in the soil and the stranger, in the breath of dawn and the ache of the world. And in this awareness, the world appears as a Christ-soaked field shimmering with the energy of becoming. Compassion rises like water through the roots of being, drawing every act toward justice, tenderness, and renewal. And this trust in grace becomes a radical orientation, a rootedness that allows engagement without fear, conviction without aggression, courage without domination. And my friends, contemplation reveals that love is not a possession, but a rhythm in which all life participates. Every moment invites participation in this rhythm, where thought yields to wonder and control gives way to receptivity. The contemplative gaze does not withdraw from the world. It beholds the world as already radiant, already whole, already held. To live in such seeing is to become the prayer itself, a movement of grace within the great unfolding of God's love. Take a breath, because that is who you are, a movement of grace within the great unfolding of God's love. And when we trust in divine love, that trust becomes the ground of awareness, the ground of prayer, and the ground of action that emerges as one movement of compassionate presence. So this is why we practice contemplative practice, to give ourselves time for that revealing of love that is not a possession, but a rhythm in which all life participates. So let us participate now in practice together for just a few minutes. Take a gentle deep breath. Feel love flowing into you, as you, through you, and then from you. Friends, divine love in uncertain times really depends on us not giving up on love, to continue to practice, to continue to give for the goodness of the other, to be courageous to care. We have a few minutes if anyone else has anything at all they would like to share in the chat. A comment, a reflection, echo something you heard. Maybe you just want to say hi to each other. Anything at all. I will just sit quietly for a moment to see if you have anything else to share. And then I will share a closing blessing. Okay, friends, thank you again for being here. Next week we will be back at our normal time at 6 p.m. Central. And please remember that those posts that will be there at 11:15 each day to continue this theme of divine love in uncertain times. Until then, may the stillness within each heart open in trust, where divine love breathes through every imperfection and brings forth the courage to act. May awareness deepen into communion and communion ripen into compassionate action for the life of the world. And may all who listen remember that love is already here, moving quietly through all things, sustaining every breath in grace. Blessings to all. Good night. Hope to see you again soon.